Yo, yo. Well, it's good, homie. It's
All right.
I'm so glad that you even hearing me for doing this.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Of course. It's dude, I mean, I've been a huge fan. I tried to, do even more homework whenever I found out you were willing to do this.
Yeah.
Like, dude, first off, how was the Herbie Hancock thing, just in general?
It was awesome, man. I mean, it was like one of the best experiences I've ever had getting to meet some of my heroes and like meet all these other amazing players that were all really cool. I
Yeah,
mean, it was wonderful. It was just like the whole thing was a joy, truly.
yeah,
So, I had a blast. And it was inspiring and, it was great.
for sure, dude. I'm sure. I mean, everybody that was there playing was just like, dude,
Yeah.
next level. I couldn't
And it was just cool because they're so unique and have their own thing, and it
absolutely.
was fun to hear how they play, what they choose, um like during the competition part. I didn't do too much research ahead of time just because I just wanted to just do my thing and be happy with it, and but it was so fun getting to hear them,
Dude, yeah.
and of course get to meet some legends like Schofield and Pat and Lee Ritenour and Russell and all that. So it was great, man.
Yeah, I was just watching from the internet and I was like, God damn,
Hmm.
he's doing it. That's so crazy. I mean, was there any sort of like initial online audition, or did you go there and do it, or was like that
um,
thing itself?
they had like you submitted stuff via the website. I think in October
Oh
was
wow.
the deadline, and you got notified sometime in November,
Mm,
and then the semifinals were in December. So
cool, cool.
yeah.
Well, dude, I mean, it came out at a great time. I mean, I had a lot of time on my hands at that time to
Yeah.
and watch it, and it was like, dude, this is sick. But yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe it. The other thing, I mean, how'd you get the Arturo gig?
Arturo, I have known his pianist Max Hamer very well for a while, and I think this was last April or May.
Yeah,
They were looking to add guitar back into the mix, and Max, you know, recommended me, and we all got together and hung, and I joined on like a weekend of shows here in LA, and then that was it. So, and that's a blast. I mean, that's such a fun thing because Arturo gets to really make any musical choice he wants at any time during the show,
yeah, right.
and and you just
Right.
go with him, and it's really fun, um to
Sure.
get to react to someone who's had so much experience both in years and just and time shedding, like just seeing what they decide to do and going with them, and meeting his level. He has a lot of energy, and he requires a lot of energy when playing, so it's truly so much fun.
Yeah, I remember being like a kid, like watching
Hmm.
on YouTube, like on that There Will Never Be Another You.
Hmm.
It's like, wow,
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah,
know.
it's a lot of fun, man, and his energy is so good. He has so much spirit. His musical energy is amazing. He'll just pull things out of nowhere that you would never expect, and then never do it again. Or and like it was just we were just in Seattle. Actually, this was our last run of shows before everything got canceled.
Yeah, did you do
Um,
the Grand Junction one?
we were at Jazz Alley in Seattle for
Okay.
4 nights, which was a blast. And God, I think so. We did like 2 shows a night for 4 nights, or no, one show, then 2 shows, then 2 shows, then one show. It's kind of a weird combination. But one of the nights, I think it was the second or third night, he just randomly um, called Giant Steps at the very end. But he didn't even tell us. I think he whispered it to the sax player, and he just counted off, and
Yeah.
it was so funny, man. It was great. It was. I mean, those are the kind of things that are awesome, though. That where you just have no idea what's coming next.
Yeah, I
You
guess
know.
it was kind of going to be my next question about it. Was just like, obviously what's it like playing with him? You kind of answered that, and then like, is he, just calling standards? Is it like mixture of his tunes, or like kind of just
Um,
whatever happens
it's a
happens?
mixture of his tunes that like you need to learn and have ready to go. maybe some arrangements of certain covers, like we do like a Stevie Wonder tune and stuff like that. And
Cool.
then he'll just call tunes. He has tunes that he'll like to do some more often than others. He likes to do Smile, My Romance, and then we'll play some like Dizzy Gillespie Head.
Right on.
It's
Yeah,
pretty open ended, man.
that's cool. That's
You
super,
know, that's part of the thing is it's so cool, just like being along for the ride with him.
for sure.
You know, yeah.
Dude, what about you? I mean, first thing I heard about you, that 3x4 thumb video, and I was like,
Okay.
rad.
Uh,
I mean, I'm sure
what
you,
the trio video?
yeah, that three of our is just like insane.
Thank you, man. Yeah. I think we were talking about some 3/4 grooves at some point a while back.
I'm addicted.
I'm all about that. I'm all about that stuff. Yeah. So I released my last ensemble album back in April
Okay.
with my acoustic ensemble, and I've been shedding a lot of solo guitar stuff recently, especially very recently with all this like everything shutting down stuff. It's been, I was planning on getting back in the studio in August to do like a quartet record.
Yeah.
But that might turn into a solo record right now, just because I've been truly enjoying digging into some solo material and trying to really pick
Me too.
specific songs that I'd like to cover. It'll probably be mostly standards and like some Portuguese stuff, and then probably I'll move the original quartet music maybe to the next thing. But yeah, shedding, writing. As a guitar player during a quote unquote quarantine, we can practice anytime. So
Yeah.
things could be worse. I'm getting a lot of time to shed, honestly, and it's good.
True.
It's good for me.
True. Yeah. I mean, obviously, like, where does the Latin come from?
Man, I've always loved that stuff, and I think around 2016, I was like, I want to do like a project where I can really dig into it, because as a guitar player, you're kind of on the peripheral of like Latin music, whatever that means.
True.
And as a jazz guitar player,
Yeah.
falling into the Latin jazz category is something that's a very broad term, and it doesn't always have the best examples. If you were to just type in Latin jazz and listen to some examples, it's not exactly the type of, but that getting further into genres in general, like even just saying jazz is a very open-ended term now. So I started surrounding myself with musicians, a lot of Cuban musicians around LA that I could really learn a lot from. Cuban, Venezuelan, Peruvian. And I learned a ton, and I just started writing stuff. I started listening to stuff.
Yeah.
And I did an album in 2017 under a project called Homenaje, which means tribute in Spanish. And that was fun. And that's definitely bled over into my general music making, my love for those grooves
You could tell.
and that stuff. Because I mean, it's so great, and it really is such a universal feeling you get when you hear those rhythms and those grooves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do understand. I mean, for sure. At least for me, I'm not super influenced. I haven't just really done my homework. I love listening to it. My mom is Mexican and grew up.
Your mom is what?
My mom is Mexican, so
Okay.
it's huge Latin. I don't speak any Spanish really, though. I took it in college and whatever, but I don't speak to anyone, and no one in my family really still speaks it. So it's I think I'm third generation American. So and yeah, I don't know. I just like it's kind of far removed for me, so it's interesting just that I'm like I don't know close to it, and you're so close to it. I'm so far away.
I mean, it was a conscious decision. I really wanted to dig into it, and I just felt really pulled towards it, and I'm so glad. I mean, I learned so much. I mean, what you really learn is inside of any genre, there's seemingly infinite like vocabulary and amazing things, amazing musicianship, and like with streaming platforms now, I'd say one of the positives, there are plenty of negatives that artists could argue because, it's hurting our revenue. But I mean, you can get exposed to so much stuff
right now.
that you would never hear if you had to go
Yeah.
to Amoeba to find a CD. So there's positives to that for sure.
Yeah, yeah. What just talking about guitar, what have you been shedding guitar wise? What's there?
I was just revisiting Countdown right before we started this. I was in Europe for a month doing a bunch of trio shows, and we were playing Countdown a lot at that time. And then I started
Was that your
that was my trio stuff.
how do you go about booking shows in Europe? I don't even know.
Having a point person like my buddy Kevin Van den Elzen, a great drummer from Holland who lives here in LA, helped me set up trio shows in Belgium, Netherlands, and Germany.
Right on.
And then we split off. I went to Italy and France for a few days each just to kind of hang, and then I did some clinic and group stuff in Greece I linked up with a great guitar player there who we did some like duo shows, we did some quartet shows, and then I went to Turkey, which I've been doing the last 2 years, going to Turkey in the fall and doing like some trio shows and master classes and stuff.
Cool.
That's the most fun for me, is getting out and getting to take my music to to new places. That's my favorite thing in the world to do.
Is trio?
Well, trio, duo, solo, whatever, but getting to travel to new places and play.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like amazed just as a follower of you, I guess, just all the places you play. I'm kind of just like trying to book gigs locally and
Sure.
paying the bills. Not really
yes.
too much, I guess, but I'm supposed to go to Portland in July. Hopefully
That's my hometown.
Oh, really?
Portland, Oregon.
Word. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I saw your Facebook. You're like from Oregon. I remember that. So.
Mm-hmm.
What? How long were you there? Did you study there? Like, what's your?
Yeah, I was born and raised there. Up through high school, I moved to Southern California after high school to go to college. Studied with some great guitarists in Portland. Dan Ballmer, who's truly just a world-class guitar player, out of this world. Every time I hear him, I'm continuously amazed, and he's a great guy. And they had a great jazz club there called Jimmy Mac's that closed a couple years ago, unfortunately. But there are some great clubs that are opening up, like 1905 has a lot of great international and national acts come through.
Okay.
There's a good scene in Portland for sure. Good jazz scene.
It seems like it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I had some friends over there. I've heard good things.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of reached out, and I got a lot of bites, which was cool. I got like 5.
That's great.
And I was like, damn, just in like the same city, I'm going to places, but then they're not like, at least in Denver, like where I live pretty close to Denver, and they like most of the time you play there, like they make you sign some sort of clause where like you can't in like a 20-mile radius of like a month from here.
Okay, yeah.
Kind of kills a lot of places you can play Colorado wise, and like, oh shit, is that really worth it? Is it worth it to sign the the contract?
It can be. I mean, if you're looking at bigger venues, they'll include a radius clause, and that's not a bad thing, so you can focus all your energy on
for sure. I guess
one show.
Like I'm just making so little money where it's like if it mattered, to where I could make like more than $100 for not doing it, I would do it. But yeah, I don't know. In general, I've been just kind of envious, dude. I'm like, wow, you're doing the shit. That's for sure. You're going out and playing the places. You're playing with the people. I mean, what's next for you? Do you feel like?
Well, as I'm sure is the same for about every other musician in the country right now, everything's kind of been canceled.
Yeah, exactly.
No tours in the immediate future. No gigs in the immediate future. I mean, honestly, I've been practicing a lot. I've been kind of making a daily regime of like sight reading Bach every day, continuing to learn new tunes. Yeah, that's it, man.
Yeah.
Yes, violin sonatas and partitas, man. That is it. So doing that, diving into tunes, writing, working on the solo album material, messing around with Logic and like home recording stuff. It's kind of funny, like in the past, I don't know, 6 months or so, I've really beefed up my home studio situation for guitar tracking, and it's kind of perfect timing because now I've got nothing but time at home. So messing around with like mic placement and recording, and of course, digging into podcasts and let's see. I watched something recently. I watched Hunters on Amazon Prime. That's a good show. So, man.
Laying low, just hitting the strings.
Hitting the strings.
I mean, for me, I don't know if you could speak any light on this, but I've been like, man, before everything I was doing was kind of like for the gigs. Like I was writing these tunes where it was like, people are gonna love this song, or this one will I don't know if it's covered or standard or something. It's like this one's known, people will know this one, like whatever, however it goes, and then or you just spend all this time kind of like investing your energy and your time and everything, and I'm like, man, I gotta like make art for art's sake again, Like,
I was just talking to a buddy about this, I think 2 days ago. And yeah, I think that's a wonderful place to find yourself in. If you don't know what you want to do, or if you're not sure and you're saying, okay, everything's been stripped away, all the social standards, like I need to do this to impress this person or this for this reason. So yeah, ideally then it's really good to be in that place where you have to confront, all right, what music do I want to make and why? And that's a great place to be in. There's also this great book that I've been reading recently called The War of Art, and they talk about that.
Heard of it.
Where it's I highly recommend it. Where as an artist, every artist needs to tackle that, is going, okay, if I strip away everyone else and no one else is even watching, what is left that means something to me that I want to create? And I think that's a wonderful headspace to be in. And quite frankly, hopefully one of the benefits from all this craziness is that a lot of people are spending more time insulated and really digging deeper into like what the root of their artistry is.
Sure.
I think it's a great place to be in, and I think it'll yield a lot of really wonderful creative things in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. I think I mean, I don't know about you. You're like, in my opinion, you're huge. You have people, but
just a music nerd.
You're gigging, you're doing Herbie Hancock, you're traveling internationally. You're doing way more than I am in comparison. And like, you're doing that, and it's like that's crazy. But then it's like everyone is like stopped right now. Like, and it's like, okay, what does anyone do now? And it's already really hard to get like Skype lessons and like kind of like lock people in and even do, I don't know, like interview or radio or like just trying to think of all those kind of like outside things. But like now everyone's going to be releasing YouTube videos. Now everyone's going to be going live on Facebook. Now everyone's doing Instagram.
Constantly, man. Constantly. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
It's like just a constant like floor of live streams.
Like 100 live streams like per second, and it's like, oh man, I didn't even know this was possible. And you thought it was hard to get tips online or whatever. Now it's like everything is so tenfold. I mean, you talked about the studio, but like, is there anything else you're kind of like really trying to pick up that's like,
I mean, always my own playing, my own musicianship, my compositional skills. I mean, that's an endless journey.
Yeah.
And I mean, trying to just break things into like on a daily amount, like 45 minutes of sight reading Bach, an hour of like learning, playing new tunes, composing, warm up exercises. I mean, the
That's pretty.
music and guitar is such an infinite thing for me that I mean,
That's
I feel in a way that I've been I might be a little more prepared for some type of event like this where we're all having to suddenly stay inside, because I do that a lot. I spend a
yeah,
lot of time alone with
yeah,
music.
totally. Same, same. Yeah, I feel fortunate in that fact too, where I'm pretty used to just, you know, oh, did I lose you? Yeah. Oops. Like, homie. Yo, we got it.
Yo.
I'm learning. And when
No, no worries, no worries.
it crashed yesterday too. Do you know Thomas Griggs?
I do not.
You should check him out, dude. He's like a classical guitar, absolute like fusion monster.
Hmm.
I mean, you know that whole like animals as leaders kind of shit, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Shit, but, like just that genre.
Nice.
Intervals, John, and all them. He like plays in intervals. He's like a kind of a hired gun, second guitar player when they go on tour.
Nice.
Video stuff like that stuff is just like guitar symphonies sometimes. So it's like you definitely need a couple strings up there.
To cover the parts, yeah.
Yeah, and but he's really cool. We were talking about some Messiaen stuff yesterday, and
So what is that?
Messiaen, like Oliver Messiaen, you know him.
I do not.
So like he's like a classical composer, prisoner of
Hmm.
crazy story, kind of World War II esque
Right.
piano player. He like invented kind of this theremin slide guitar thing.
Hmm.
Also piano. It's insane. And like he, like half diminished and like sounds like major seven sharp five sharp nine or like whole tone. He like uses as like his own sound like really freely, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
As like home as to like people have been jazz do all the time. Classical music that was like
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know. It's he's cool. Like, we were talking about some kind of stuff, some more technical stuff. Uh, what are you into as far as that goes?
I lost you for a sec. Technical stuff. What was that?
What are you into as far as like technical stuff goes? Like, I don't know. Is there anything like theory that just gets you off? Like, I'm into augmented chords or polyrhythm.
Uh-huh.
I think.
Well, very recently, I've been diving into how exactly would I describe it? But basically, cycling specific triads inside of any scale that you can alternate within a pattern, usually of three, that ascends the entire scale. Basically, the scale is being played on the top note, up, down, whatever, but
Yeah.
you're only cycling about three different triads, and it's
That's,
just a really nice way of harmonizing a scale musically.
mm,
um, and it's different with different scales. Like with diatonic scales, it's kind of like a 1-4-5 exercise,
mm,
and then with like diminished or augmented scales, it's still three different chords, but it's not necessarily a 1-4-5.
sure. Sure.
That's honestly been one of the biggest things I've been really working on, is just beefing that up.
Yeah.
It's a really beautiful. You want me to demonstrate it here?
Yeah. I'm
Okay. Can you hear this okay?
Yeah. So,
So in a diatonic sense, if I'm in G minor and I want to cycle, basically you'd be hearing this G minor scale. We would have So you're hearing this scale being played. Hey,
Yeah.
kitty. But I'm basically alternating 1, 4, and 5. Sometimes it's not in that exact order, but I mean, I'm using 1, 4, 5 to harmonize the scale. Or I could do it with harmonic minor. So 4, 5, 1, 4, 5, 1, 4, 5, 1, 4. It's got kind of a classical sound. Digging into like the diminished scale, like G half whole diminished.
Yeah, my favorite.
Which you could do with major or minor triads, because there are major or minor triads in there.
I call it the smart ass scale. I don't know if anyone else says.
I haven't heard it called the smart ass scale before.
You play it almost
so G half whole diminished scale. I'll start with a G major triad. I'm sorry. Let me start again. Right? You're hearing the scale ascending inside of 3 triads: G major, E major, C sharp major, or let's call it D flat major, okay? D flat major, B flat major, G major, E major, D flat major, B flat major, G major. So that's, applying, or you could do it with minor triads.
Yeah.
Honestly, this stuff's pretty hard. I'm still like really working it out.
Yeah.
And then lastly, what was that?
It makes sense theoretically. It's like I really had to think about the inversions, I guess, in my head. Like,
well, yeah, it's just a really nice way to musically ascend a scale in a more harmonically dense way.
Yeah, dude.
I'll kind of stop there, but honest, like as far as like really like theoretical thing, I've been really digging into that. And applying that to all kinds of different scales and modes.
Yeah, dude, super cool. I appreciate that. That's
always more, man. Always more to do.
We were talking about Coltrane earlier. The thing that it reminded me of is that part in Naima. I can never say it right.
Naima, yeah.
Very end, where he kind of like goes up to the 1 to 4 chord, but it's like kind of this pentatonic thing, But yeah, he's just kind of like swooping. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a very inside version of that. Yeah, where the melody's ascending and it's just alternating between 2 chords.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's a strong sound, man. It's a very strong sound.
I kind of do something like that, but like, I don't know, in a different sense, where like, say, something's on. You say you're in D and you're going. I think about, like if I'm going up necessarily, like you're just talking about going up the scale, but I maybe will be, doing something weird, or maybe you can go normal. You know what I mean? Like I try to do whatever going up a scale.
Well, so that's diatonically ascending every note, like cycling the chords, which is one thing.
I do that. I don't ever think about like switching, like you're saying. I definitely up through the scale. I feel like that's such a guitar player thing where you're taking it like,
It's it's a different way. They have 2 different sounds. I feel like if you're just cycling the chords, like that has its own effect. But going inside of inversions, it just has a richer harmonic overtone, I think. They're both useful, Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, like sometimes I'll just pick a sound and start walking it up, or go up a scale or a chord or whatever chords.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But dude, that's super sick. I don't know. Everybody has their thing. That's always interesting. You were talking about warm-ups. That's always like something I don't ever do. What do you do to warm up?
Well, scales, arpeggios, and arpeggios. Honestly, do that every day for the rest of your life.
True.
Or those exercises I was doing, and like make sure to work out the right hand with alternate picking and all that.
Yeah, I've really not been using a pick very much. I can. There was a period I should take lessons with this guy, Pete Weezy, great guitar player, North Texas guy. he was like, "You're not allowed in the door unless you have a pick," and I was like, "Oh shit," you know. So just kind of
Sure. Well, and I mean, because if he's really wanting to, and I get that, if he wants you to get the most out of the lesson, and he's teaching with a pick,
yeah,
and but ultimately, it's every player's, individual choice. But sure, I'm kind of similar. I mean, I
yeah,
really only use a pick. I do some finger style, but not like classical. I don't have those chops. I don't pretend to. I don't take it lightly what it means to have those chops when you listen to real masters play like that. So
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sure if it was like for that reason or just kind of like just be prepared, like
hmm
whatever I'm asking you, whoever's asking you to do, you should just do it, and don't
sure.
show up with the things that you need and you may not even need it, but you know, and he was sometimes a Nazi about it, but sometimes as long as I had it, it was fine. It's like it's kind of silly, but yeah, lots of interesting things. Yeah, I don't know. I'm always kind of defensive about that in my own head, where it's like, I do practice a lot with the pick, but whenever I play shows, I don't know, I feel more free. Especially like when I'm singing and playing. I'm not sure if it's just like the literal like just being able to touch the string. Yeah, cool. Okay,
Yo.
right on. Well, at least it's saved. Yesterday, I lost some footage because
Oh no.
like ended, and yeah, I'm just trying to, I don't know, not lose anything because
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad it's all saved so far.
good shit. So
Nice.
yeah, man. Again, I mean, I still super appreciate you being see with all this. It's
Thank you, man. I'm happy to do it. I think it's interesting actually getting to socialize with some people that I don't normally get to socialize with now. So
true.
I think that hopefully is another plus is people getting to extend their networks a little bit.
Yeah, I agree, man. I was kind of thinking about again just the studio. Um, we're talking about the whole solo trio, whatever whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. Like, it's kind of hard to predict at this point, but like I gotta ask Mark Lettieri if he'll be on here. I used to take lessons with him for a little bit, and
hmm
Monty player, I love that dude. Such a nice guy, sick player.
Yeah.
His home studio is like nothing. I mean, he's got a computer. He's got a nice.
Right.
He's got like all of the guitars and the pedals you would ever want, amps and stuff.
hmm
He has like a couple of nice microphones and like a nice interface. And I don't know what he uses, Logic or Pro Tools or whatever, but something. And I mean, I saw he was talking with Yannick Guzdala. Do you know him?
Oh yeah, Yannick. Yeah, Yannick's amazing. Yes.
Baller. I mean, yeah, dude. I also try to get something going. That would be sick, in my opinion.
He's
But
amazing, man. I got to play with him once at the Baked Potato a number of years ago. I was a little younger, and I mean, he's pretty out of this world. Like his sound, yeah.
sounds like it.
Um,
I think I don't know.
but I think what you're saying, yeah, a lot of simple homes. I'll show you my home studio setup, which basically consists of two Macs
Oh, wow.
and an AEA ribbon mic
Okay.
and an SE7 condenser mic.
Word.
I got two little amps set up there. Apogee Duet. I have like my little acoustic board set up just for some basic reverb and stuff for when I'm teaching Skype lessons. I haven't really used my main pedal board in a while just because I haven't had a gig since Seattle maybe a week and a half ago with Arturo. So,
Sure.
but I mean, and I use Logic, and that's my home studio setup for guitar tracking.
Yeah.
And it's
I mean,
pretty infinite.
basically, Mark was like, man, I wish I would have actually been able to be in the studio with Snoop Dogg, because he was like, just he's collabed with so many.
But he just flew the tracks over.
Yeah. So I don't know. I was just kind of thinking about that. I was like, that would just be interesting to hear how he because I know he works a lot from home anyways. beyond all this kind of stuff. But like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, man, that would be just like how to get your online hustle going. Have you ever thought about like doing like I don't know, I could do it like jam play or something like sound slice or like one of those courses or anything? Do you have anything like that already?
No, I don't. But
Yeah.
like I think I followed Sound Slice, but what does that exactly mean? Like you send them stuff and they
Now it's kind
I'm
of
such a music nerd, man. I spend all my time practicing this stuff. I'm like, I need to actually pop my head out of my practice room.
yeah. Well, dude, I mean, you can definitely hear the hard work. I think that's what people are interested in. You know, at least for me, where it's like, man, you've really done your homework. I would love to, just know what you practice, even if it's for $20 or $40 or whatever you feel is right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I'm definitely basically like every other jazz musician on the planet, like, hey, let's do Skype lessons since
yeah,
no one else can go out.
for sure.
And I did one this morning and it was fun. I think I've done maybe two this week, if that, maybe just this one, but you kind of get after like a week of basically just doing your own thing and shedding, you're like, oh, this is fun, really doing a lesson again.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
So
I agree. I
yeah.
had one last night, and I don't know. I was kind of in a position where I wasn't teaching because I didn't need to, and
Hmm.
I don't know. I get really stressed out of that, like not in a bad way, but like, where I just get really worked up over that. Like, like I just invest so much energy and time into like what I'm preparing, and like here's some lesson plans, and here's some stuff, and it's like doing that plus like 5 gigs a week and trying to do the Skype lesson thing too and in person and then like, trying to
Hmm.
run your own rehearsals and whole gigging this is like too much. So I kind of
Well, view this
it's cool.
country shutdown as a time to really let all the voices in your head go away, and you're just left with like, okay, what do I want to do? What do I need to do?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think it's a positive thing, and it's not easy for everyone to confront, maybe, but I think it's a great thing that every person should confront. You
yeah,
know.
yeah. No, yeah, yeah. I'm trying to use the time with the podcast. Trying to get more on the YouTube. I mean, hypothetical apocalypse scenario. If this continues, what if there are no more gigs?
Hmm.
That's silly. That's not gonna happen. I'm hoping not. But like, I feel like as musicians, at least like the pros are like what defines a professional is like getting paid for what you do, and then like thinking about well, what platforms actually will pay me now, like YouTube. I saw you have like a decent YouTube following, which is like awesome. I think you only need
Yeah, I don't have a huge. I think I have a bigger Instagram, maybe Facebook following than YouTube.
sure, but those you
That's the funny thing of like gauging a career these days is so funny because you have all these different platforms. You have YouTube,
yeah,
Spotify, Instagram,
I don't
Facebook. Whereas
know.
maybe in 1985 you had what were your record sales,
Sure,
and that was it, or what were your concert ticket sales.
yeah, yeah. I think
It's just different. I think it's impossible to compare. I think it's just different. But I think, yeah, in general, financially, there's people are spending less money, people are making less money,
yeah,
and who is making more money are the platforms like Spotify or YouTube, I suppose.
totally. I'm just kind of
But
thinking,
we have more available to us for less, but there's just less revenue being spent and less revenue coming in to the artist and from the artist.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know, just kind of, in general, it's kind of just running the scenario back to gigs, I guess, for comparing it, where it's like, am I really going to take that free gig or am I going to take the $500 gig? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
and it's like, where's your wallet at? And, what are the priorities kind of thing? Or who are you playing with or whatever?
Find your own balance, man. That's all any of us can do.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I was like, I need t-shirts. I should have had like CDs and I should have
Hmm.
had like, a book or a lesson or something right now. It's just kind of like time to take care of all that stuff, really. But
Well, CDs, I printed, I think, 500 copies of my last album. And I've sold some, I've given some away for promotional stuff. But
yeah,
I mean, CDs are kind of obsolete now,
dude,
truly.
they are.
The only place I play CD is in my car, or I guess my Mac, my old Mac, because new Macs don't even have CD players.
Nope.
Um,
I got a
so
jack and a charger. That's it.
yeah, so it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
But they represent like a calling card. You know, they're like a physical like collection of your artistry, and
Yeah.
I think that is an invaluable thing that should not go away.
True.
Whereas like, you know, like I've never really been interested in selling my stuff on flash drives or whatever. That just sounds so awful.
I agree.
It sounds so just not genuine.
It tried to be done like well, you know, or like they put it in a little case and it's got.
Yeah, but you know, you have to see open it up, or even, you know, different like the vinyl where it's like a book
Totally.
and the music.
Yeah.
You know.
I
But
agree.
I mean, the most that I intake my music, as I'm sure a lot of people, is streaming.
Yeah.
You know, or iCloud or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's very easy and it's very convenient. But you know, you don't get to see all the artwork.
Yeah.
It's just a little, yeah.
Yeah. I'm low on space as it is. In general, who are some people that you really dig for guitar players like that?
Yes, guitar players that I really dig. You know, some of my slightly earlier influences: Gilad Hexelman, Jonathan Kreisberg, Pat Metheny, of course. Pasquale Grasso has been releasing a lot of truly amazing solo guitar music. He's really out of this world. Lage Lund, of course, I love Julian Lage.
Yeah, he just released a video today. It's very cute.
Julian did.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I got to check it out.
Lady Margaret Glaspie, just kind of doing a little duet on the couch or whatever.
Ah, interesting. Great. The list of guitar players can go on. I mean, it's pretty diverse. And then there's a compositional aspect of, like, you know, Lyle Mays just passed away. I mean, his whole compositional thing is so amazing, both in a instrumental choice and in just the musical content itself. So like beyond just guitar players, but like, you know,
Yeah,
how the composing ties in, how the arranging ties in. My musical intake is pretty broad these days.
I try not to be a critic, really.
Yeah.
I think as soon as I start being like, you know, fuck this is dumb, like, you know, is when you are missing out. Like, are you tuning into the Latin grooves? Are you listening to the harmony? Are you down?
Well, or you know, I mean, I think there's a positive thing that can come from your internal criticism, whereas if you're intaking something, you're generally thinking, what do I like about this, or what do I not like about this, and that will likely influence your choices.
I agree.
If you're on the other side and you're the one releasing content and someone is stating what they like or what they don't like, that can also be interesting for you to hear. But past a certain point, I mean, you just have to commit to what you're doing and believe in it. But I think being like your own critic is very important for growth and for progress, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense though. It's like, you know, if you're your biggest critic and nothing that, you know, you're not 100% proud of comes out, then that's probably a good place to be in, I would say. So
I think so too. I think it's important. I think it's interesting today. It's very easy for anyone and everyone to release content, you know. I mean, and we were just talking about this, like in this exact time, especially with all these live streams, all these, like, people are around probably releasing more content maybe than usual. And it's good to step back and think, you know, what do I want to release? What do I want it to say? What quality do I really want it to be at? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it speaks volumes, especially now because everything's so saturated. Like, you want it to be good,
and just be honest, you know, and hope and ultimately be honest to what you believe you're doing.
That's I've only heard somebody describe somebody's music as honest once, and I like that term being used in music. Blake Mills Blake Mills.
Mm.
Yeah, I was taking a lesson with Horace Gray, and right before I walked out the door, he goes, "Yo, check out Blake Mills. His playing's really honest." And I was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Uh, and yeah, I mean, there's some truth to that. I think, kind of in general, yeah, during this time, I've been listening a lot to Miles, and
Hmm.
dude, there's some shit he plays, especially when he's younger, that's like just like mind blowing. Super bebop, like out the door, like holy crap. But then you hear him on like Kind of Blue or Birth of Cool or all those like working albums and stuff, and he's like pouring his heart out to you. And
Miles is an amazing. It's funny you mentioned Miles because I was literally listening to his biography like earlier today, um,
word,
and
check
he one of the coolest things about him, one of the many cool things, is how diverse his body of work is, and how he was absolutely 100% aware, or in his case, wanting to embrace change and
yeah, true.
forward motion. If you listen to his stuff in 1990 versus 1980 versus 1970 versus 1960, I mean, it's like 4 or 5 different artists.
Yeah.
And I love artists that do that. Other artists that come to mind are guys like Prince. I can't think of a bunch of others, but like those are 2 huge artists that I think of that from decade to decade. It's very different. And I don't think it's different for the sake of being different. I think it's different for the sake of them truly caring about where they are and what they want to accomplish next and what they want to learn. I think they were definitely lifelong learners.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I mean, I don't know. I guess, we were over here talking about nerd shit, but then sometimes now I'm feeling like not necessarily that the nerd stuff is bad, but definitely like everything has a time and place. And it's like, sometimes it's like it's the vibe to play, you know, dum, 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 or whatever.
Yeah.
Or like I was watching this Victor Wooten thing like right before we started talking, and he starts playing the My Girl thing. Dum, 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 my girl, it's like
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I don't remember what it was on top of my head, but it was like, in 2 seconds the crowd was like, "Oh shit!" It's like they totally knew it, but I don't know, it's just stuff like that, like where you lock in, and he was like, "That's the feel, though. Like this is like an emotion."
It creates a mood, it creates an atmosphere, and that's, I think, one of the many amazing unquantifiable things about music is how you can hear a piece of music. I relate it to myself when I think back to when I was a child before I ever played,
Yeah,
and I would hear a piece of music
yeah,
and be really moved by it.
it's floral.
And I didn't know why. I just knew what's coming to mind is Tchaikovsky's Waltz of the Flowers.
Wow. Okay, I never heard of it. I'll check it out.
It's in the Nutcracker. It's beautiful. You've probably heard it.
Okay,
It's the
Nutcracker. My parents took me that like,
that piece. You've probably heard that.
yeah,
Something like that. And I specifically remember hearing it during the ballet, and like hearing the French horns, and like just the sound of the French horn has always amazed me. Or hearing certain soundtracks, certain movies like when I think I saw Gladiator when it came out, and I was in like 5th grade, and that was a couple years before I started playing guitar, and like that soundtrack just like kind of like electrified me. It just had a lot of like uh emotion to it. So I think that's amazing. And what's cool is you come back with an educated, more experienced mind and revisit those things and still feel those same feelings, or maybe you like view them differently. Or
oh, did I lose you again? Check, check.